This is a non-profit fan-made review. Star Wars is owned by Disney, but Splinter of the Mind's Eye was written by Alan Dean Foster. Since their purchase of Star Wars, Disney has failed to provide Mr. Foster with any royalties stemming from their continued sales of his work. If you wish to assist Mr. Foster and other authors Disney is failing to pay, please visit the site in the description to see what you can do to help. Splinter of the Mind's Eye. At first I wanted to do a dramatic reading of this book. However, as I do not yet understand the intricacies of the copyright, and do not wish to violate it, I decided along a different course. Two wrongs don't make a right, and while Disney appears to be the one in the wrong, their vast amount of resources forces a random little scrub like me to tread very lightly. Therefore, while I am reading Splinter of the Mind's Eye again, my own copy which I purchased 20 years ago, this production will not be an audiobook. Instead, it will simply be a chapter-by-chapter recap. This book was the inspiration for one of our first Weekend Star Warriors campaign, a link to which will be included at the end of each of these episodes. Unfortunately, I had misplaced the book at the time of recording that adventure, so I made several mistakes, not the least of which was confusing Circoporus 4 and 5. But that's not why you're here. With all that out of the way, let's get started. Chapter 1. It starts out with some very flowery language and a bit of philosophy, basically comparing the living beings of the galaxy to microorganisms, constantly fighting and causing problems for the beings, or in this case, the planets on which they live. We're then introduced to the familiar sight of the one and only Luke Skywalker, flying his X-Wing with R2 in the droid socket behind him. The book gives us a quick recap of what happened after the Death Star attack. Apparently they'd offered him any reward he wanted, but Luke just wanted to keep flying his X-Wing. One of the generals suggested that they not give Luke any official rank, as it would simply paint an even larger target on his back. Leia, it turns out, is flying a Y-Wing right next to him. And then we get a couple cringy parts of Luke thinking about how pretty she is. In the author's defense, this was long before anyone, possibly even George Lucas, knew that they were siblings. But in hindsight, it is still very, very creepy. We learn that they are going to the Circoporus system for some important, but boring, diplomacy talks. Apparently, there's one group of resistance fighters who will only join the Rebel Alliance if another group of resistance fighters join, who will, in turn, only join if Leia meets with them on Circoporus 4 and arranges for Alliance aid. So there are two systems that are about to join, dependent on this meeting. But, of course, a problem arises. Leia's ancient Y-Wing springs a leak in its left engine, and so they decide to set down on Circoporus 5, known commonly as Mimban, to repair it. Luke is hesitant since the records indicate there's no repair station there, but Leia points out that there's a landing beacon down there, so there's gotta be something that can repair the ship. They head down into Mimban's atmosphere, but hit a massive, unnatural lightning storm with bolts of every color of the rainbow. Very pretty. One of the Y-Wing's engines explodes, and 3PO, functioning as Leia's co-pilot, is as whiny as usual. Both lose power from the rainbow lightning storm, and have to glide their ships in. The Y-Wing, of course, has a more difficult time, as it is less aerodynamic than the X-Wing. Luke crash-lands his X-Wing, losing half the engines and wings in the process, and nearly getting decapitated by a tree. Luke is bloodied, but not too injured. With the X-Wing now useless, Luke gathers up his survival equipment and his father's lightsaber. R2 helps Luke out of the cockpit, and they start the long trek through the swampy forests of Mimban, in the direction which the compass tells them Leia and 3PO crashed, or at least an approximation of such direction. At this time, Luke has yet to learn binary, so he has no idea what R2 is saying. As they trudge up a hill through the constant not-quite-mist, not-quite-rain, Luke sees some ancient temple off in the distance. He is curious, but finding his friends is far more important. He then encounters his first example of Mimbanese wildlife, a little green puffball with 4 legs, 4 arms, and 2 big eyes. The sight of Luke holding a deactivated lightsaber is enough to send the creature fleeing into the brush. The chapter ends commenting that Luke is buoyed by his false confidence. This concludes my review of this chapter. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to listen to all of my other videos. I published an entire Mimban campaign, as well as a censored version for the kids. I plan on releasing a chapter review every other week.